begin in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen, wa rahmatil alameen, at-tayyibeen, at-tahirin. Amma ba'd, faqad qala Allah Ta'ala, wa tabarak fi kitabil mubin, wa Qur'anil hamid, wa huwa asdaqus sadiqeen. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذ قال ربك للملائكة إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة. Verily, I'm going to make in the earth a vicegerent. Tonight I'm going to try to explain the story of Adam alayhi salam, beginning with him in the garden, his actions and his intentions. This is all based on the Holy Quran, logic and al-Mizan fi tafsir al-Quran, the magnificent exegesis by the late Allama Muhammad Hussain Tabatabai. My only work in this speech is that I'm explaining Allama Tabatabai's explanation and using a little logic. The story of Adam alayhi salam is significant as it defines the creation of the first humans under trial. The reason I didn't say that the only first humans is because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the angels he's going to make a vicegerent in the earth, they question with, are you going to put on the earth such that shall make blood, that shall shed blood and make mischief? This implies that there had been earlier creatures that shed blood and made mischief. This is, and could possibly be what modern scientists are referring to as our ancestors. The boundaries of this speech cannot cover this topic. The story of Adam alayhi salam seems complicated from the apparent meanings of the verses, and many people derive that Adam alayhi salam committed a sin. In brief, if Adam committed a sin, then why is the Quran publicizing it and repeating the story many times? To expose Adam? Is Adam alayhi salam not supposed to be followed by his people after he's sent to earth? The people who he guides on earth will have valid claim from being safe from punishment on the basis that if Adam alayhi salam had committed a sin and they committed a sin similar in nature, a just God would not punish them just like he didn't punish Adam. This is not the case altogether. The eloquent Quran repeats the story many times, and if this is the mindset one has when understanding it seems that the Quran wants to put Adam's status down and make his actions look stupid and irrational. These claims are all incorrect, and I hope to clear up some of the inferences in my speech. The story of Adam alayhi salam in the garden appears mainly 3 times in the Quran, though the story of the prostration of Adam appears more. The 3 groups of verses are as follows: Surah Baqarah ayah 30 to 39, Surah Araf ayah 19 to 25, and Surah Taha ayah 115 to 127. From the overall view of the 3 clusters of verses, a clearer story can be derived, as the 3 groups of verses do not reveal exactly the same details. Firstly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sets the tone of the story in the beginning and sets an objective and an ultimate decree. This is stated in Surah Baqarah ayah 30. Verily, I am going to make in the earth a vicegerent. This is the ayah I had recited earlier. This statement decisively shows that no matter what the outcome of the following verses may appear to be, there will be a vicegerent who was made for the earth and will dwell therein. This vicegerent from the context can be none other than Adam alayhi salam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Once Adam alayhi salam was created and his wife was created from him, they were sent to a garden. This garden was not paradise, as will be discussed later. What Adam alayhi salam and his wife were allowed to do is conditional, and in reference to Surah Baqarah ayah 35, it says, O Adam, dwell you and your wife in the garden, and eat you both from freely plenteous food, wherever you two wish, and do not approach you to this tree, for then you both will be of the unjust. From this verse, one can decisively conclude that Adam alayhi salam and his wife are allowed to eat from the garden wherever they want. But if they approach this tree, they will be of the unjust. Surah Taha ayah 117 explains this further, and the clause of being of the unjust is somewhat replaced. Let him, shaitan, not drive you both from the garden so that you should be put to toil. The The second verse replaces being of the unjust with being put to toil if they go near the tree or are driven from the garden. We see both these verses are synonymous in being driven from the garden by shaitan and approaching the tree. Surah Baqarah ayah 37 states, but if shaitan made them both stood from the tree and drove them out of the garden from what they were in. The entity being referred to herein, what they were in, is the comforts of the garden, as the opposite of being put to toil are the comforts of the garden. The garden's comforts will be mentioned later. We see that both these two statements are synonymous. The first statement is if they approach the tree, they will be of the unjust. And the second being the caution of the couple not to let shaitan drive them from the garden. The nature of these two verses is advising Adam alayhi salam that being of the unjust is no different from being put to toil. We see that it is doing a wrong or injustice to themselves when they leave the garden to gain nothing but more work, as is the life of this world. Physically, their bodies would obviously prefer less work and more comfort. Thus, the toiling and being put to toil is an injustice they did to their own bodies and themselves. Surah Taha, ayah 118 to 119, describes that in the garden, Adam alayhi salam and his wife won't be hungry or thirsty, nor will they have clothes or feel the heat of the sun. This definitively portrays the garden as being comfortable to human beings. The reason the garden isn't paradise is because shaitan is present in the garden. Shaitan cannot go to paradise, cannot go to the paradise of eternal abode after he was banished, as is stated in Surah 52, ayah 23, wherein there shall be nothing vain nor any sin. Therefore, the garden is a place of cleanliness and purity. And shaitan is most definitely trying to deceive Adam alayhi salam, and this would be an act in vain or a sin. Back to the injustice that Adam alayhi salam and his wife committed to themselves. They were only bringing a trial upon themselves, and were going away from the state of comfort they were in the garden. Going against this advice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala going against the advice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them is not disobedient in nature, and therefore is not defined as a sin. There was a greater reason Adam alayhi salam ate the fruit than what some may perceive. The only downside in acting against the advice is the consequence which follows, and the trial of this world which Adam and his wife had to accept once they ate the fruit. The eating of the fruit also fulfills the divine decree that there will be a vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this earth. Furthermore, Allah